We continue now at the top of Daf Dalet Amud Beis in Mesechet Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 4b. The Gemara continues to identify what is the special chiddush by Nazir. The halacha by Nazir is Vim Gileach Halachas Mishloshton Yotze. If a person shaves on one of the three karbanos, the person is still Yotze. The Nazir is still Yotze, and that's a chiddush. And therefore, I might have thought Lo li'aver aleh beval ta'acher. Therefore, if you delay in the karbanos, maybe you shouldn't transgress bal ta'acher, the prohibition against delaying. Maybe it's not like other karbanos, kamash malon. So that's what the hekesh to neder teaches us, that no, it is like other karbanos, and if you delay those karbanos, there's going to be bal ta'acher. And the Mefarish explains, Shem Gileach Halachas Mishloshton, the Nazir chayiv shalosh karbonos. A Nazir in general is chayiv to bring three karbonos when the term of the Nazirus is over. Ola chatas ushlamim. The Nazir has to bring a carbon ola, carbon chatas, carbon shlamim, k'dechsiv, v'hikriv karbono la'Hashem keves ben shanaso tamim v'gomer, like the pasuk says. B'imlo hevi ala chatas. Now the halach is, if the person only brings the chatas, megaleach olav, he's still able to shave based on the chatas. V'hainu chiddush, and that's the chiddush. Masha'in ken b'shar karbonos. We don't find that by other karbonos. Ulahachi ain't over b'bal ta'acher. Therefore, I might have thought that if the person delays these karbonos, maybe there's no bal ta'acher. Kamash malon. That's what the hekesh teaches us, that there is bal ta'acher. And the Gemara continues, if you want, I could say another answer. What is the novelty by Nazir? The same answer we offered on the previous summit, because you're not able to bring the chatos of a Nazir as a neder. You can't obligate yourself in the chatos of a Nazir if you're not actually a Nazir. But there was a difficulty with that chiddush, because the question was, that's true by all carbon chatos. Chatos chaylev. There's a difficulty by chatos chaylev also. You can't, when you have a regular carbon chatos, again, chaylev is just the prototypical carbon chatos, a person is not able to obligate himself in the chatos unless he committed the sin. So therefore, that's not such a novelty. But the Gemara says, no, you can't ask from chatas chaylev, because chatas chaylev ka'asya l'chapara. Chatas chaylev comes as a kapara, as an atonement. So of course you can't obligate yourself if you didn't actually sin. But chatas nazir l'mayasya. But chatas nazir is for nothing. There is no atonement over there. You're just bringing carbon chatas. Therefore, I might have thought you could be matfiso beneder. You could obligate yourself in such a carbon chatas. The fact that you can't, that is a novelty. But the Gemara says it's still not a novelty. What about the chatas that's brought by a woman who gives birth? She brings a carbon chatas also. That's also not for an atonement. There's no sin over there that's being atoned for. And so therefore there also we see the same thing. It's not such a novelty. And there is a bal ta'acher. There's a violation if you delay that with bal ta'acher. So again, the same thing should be true by the chatas of a nazir as well. The fact that you can't obligate yourself through a neder should not really be a chiddush. But the Gemara says, no, you can't compare yoledes to nazir, because even though the carbon chatos of a yoledes is not for kapara, it's not for atonement, but it is a matter. It permits her to eat kachim. Bringing that carbon allows her to now eat kachim. That is something that is not true when the carbon chatos of a nazir is brought, and therefore you cannot compare the two. And the Mefarish explains, the same answer we gave before, that the chiddush of the chatas nazir is, you can't obligate yourself in it unless you're nazir. If a person says, I'm obligating myself in a chatas nazir, it doesn't work. But when we say a regular chatas, that's different because it's for atonement. Because there was a sin over here, he ate chaylev, he needs a kapara. He ate the chaylev. Since that's for an atonement purpose, so if you delay, there's bal ta'acher. Avol nazir lo avid shum cheteli boy kapara. Nazir didn't do any sin. There's no need for kapara, and therefore maybe it would be different. There's no bal ta'acher. Again, the Gemara said, well, yoledis, there is bal ta'acher, and that is similar to nazir in this respect. And even then, the Gemara said it's not really similar, because again, by yoledis, the carbon chatas is coming for something to allow her to eat kodshim. And the Gemara continues, Amar Mar, the master said, Uman Nedarim ha'av mefer nidre bito. Just like by regular Nedarim, the father can annul the vows of his daughter, Ubal mefer nidre ishto, and the husband can annul the vows of his wife. So we learn to Nazirus from the Hekish. Af Nazirus, the same thing is true by Nazirus. Ha'av mefer Nazirus bito. The father can annul the Nazirus of his daughter, Ubal mefer Nazirus ishto, and the husband can annul the Nazirus of his wife. And the Gemara asks on this, Lama li Hakesha, what do you need the Hekish for? Why do we need to compare Nazir Nazir to Neder to learn this out. Let's just learn it out from a Ma'amatzinu. A Ma'amatzinu basically means to say, why would we make a distinction? If it's true by Neder, it should automatically be true by Nazir as well. You don't need to have a special hekesh from the pasuk. And the Gemara says a Ma'amatzinu doesn't work because there is a difference between Neder and Nazir. Dil Magabi Nedarim Hu Demefer. Maybe it's only true by Neder that he can annul. Mishum Delo Islay Kitsusa. Because when it comes to Nedarim, so there is no end time. The Neder can go on forever, so it makes sense that he should be able to annul it. Aval Nazirus, but when it comes to Nazirus, to Islay Kitsusa in general, Nazirus doesn't last forever. Stam Nazirus is just 30 days. The Stam Nazirus Lamed Yom. Stam Nazirus is 30 days, so it's going to end. So Eimalo, so I would say maybe there it's not possible to annul the Nazirus. Kamash Malon, so that's why we need the Hekesh. The Hekesh teaches us that it's possible to annul the Nazirus. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Ha'omer l'chaveiro mudar ani v'chulu. Let's say a person says to his friend, I am mudar from you. So that was an example of yados of Nedarim, where you don't say the whole phrase. You don't say it should be like karbon, konem, etc. You just say this little phrase of mudar ani, and that's yados of Nedarim, and that's enough to create a neder. And the Gemara says, Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, B'chulan ad sheyomer shani ochel lach, shani toim lach. When you're saying mudar ani, you also need to include the phrase, in all of these cases, you need to include the phrase of shani ochelach, shani toimlach, that indicates that, again, I'm not going to take food from you, etc. And the Mefarish over here says, Amar Shmuel, Bekulan, Becholani dekatani mimasnisin. All of these examples in the Mishnah, Mudar ani mimcha, I am mudar from you. Mufrashani mimcha v'chul, I'm separated from you. Lo have a neder, that's not a neder, v'yad sheyomer shani ochelach. He has to say that phrase, he has to say that that which I eat from you. Lo mitzar ba'oso davar. There's not going to be any prohibition unless he adds that part of the phrase. In other words, you need to say both phrases for this neder to actually take effect. And the Gemara continues, Meisva, we have a question on this, is a question on Shmuel. Mudar ani mimcha, mufrashani mimcha, meruchakani mimcha, hareza aser. So the Brisa says, if you say those phrases, mudar, mufrashani, meruchakani mimcha, that's going to create an isser, that creates a prohibition, that is a neder. And then the Brisa says another example, shani ochelach, shani toemlach. If you say the phrase, that which I eat of yours, that which I taste of yours, hareza aser, that also creates a prohibition. And clearly the Brisa seems to be saying each phrase independently creates a prohibition, not like Shmuel, who says you need both phrases together. And so the Gemara answers, Hachi Katani. Now here's how you have to understand the Brisa according to Shmuel. Ba'med devarim amurim ba'omer shani ochelach, shani tomlach. It's only true that if you say, let's say, mudar ani mimcha, mufrashani mimcha, muruchkani mimcha, it's only going to create the prohibition if you also add the phrase, if you also say, shani ochelach, shani tomlach, etc. But the Gemara says, 1 second, that's not true. V'atanya ibcha. We have a Brisa that says the exact opposite, and clearly you cannot give this answer, because the second Brisa says, shani ochelach, shani tomlach, aser. It starts off with the shani ochelach, shani tomlach, and then it says, mudrani mimcha, mufrashani mimcha, muruchakani mimcha, hareza aser. That the mudrani, mufrashani, muruchakani is aser. So there in that second Brisa, you can't say it's a ba'med devarim amurim, because the mudrani, that comes second. So you can't say, oh, ba'med devarim amurim by shani ochelach. You can't use that in the second Brisa. And so the Gemara says, no, you could do it in the second Brisa. Also, Tani Hachi, just learn the second Brisa as follows. Uchvar Omar Mudrani. Just simply say, he's already said Mudrani Mimcha, meaning, in a case where he said Mudrani Mimcha, and he adds the Shani Ochelach, that's going to create the neder. But the Gemara says, Yachi Anu Reisha, but if that's the case, that's exactly the same as the first Brisa. You have two Brisas saying the exact same thing. V'yoden further, Asr Lama Lila Misni. In both Brisas, it says Asr in the first part of the Brisa, and it says Asr in the second part of the Brisa, as if it's two separate things, so you can't combine it with a Ba'med Devarim Amurim or with a Ukvar Omar. There's no need to say the word Asr twice. So these Brisas do seem to pose a difficulty to Shmuel. And so the Gemara says, Elo Amar Shmuel, rather Shmuel says as follows. Taimud Amar Shani Ochelach, Shani Toimlach, Hu de Aser v'chaveiro mutter. What Shmuel was saying was like this. If you add the phrase Shani Ochelach, if you add the phrase Shani Toimlach, so then he's Aser in his friend's food, but his friend is still going to be mutter to him. Shani Ochelach indicates that he's putting the prohibition on himself, that he can't have his friend's food, but not the reverse. That's the distinction that Shmuel was making in the situation where you say both parts of the phrase or just the first part of the phrase. And the Mefarish over here explains, Hachi katani kilomar chisure mechsura, meaning the Gemara's answer on behalf of Shmuel is there are words missing in these Brisas. Ba'med devarim amurim, the first Brisa is missing the words Ba'med devarim amurim. To aser kiyomar mudrani, ba'omer nami shani ochelach. You have to say both. You have to say mudrani and shani ochelach, meaning mudrani is not enough. V'atanya ibcha de lo motzes amr Ba'med devarim amurim. You have a Brisa that flips it so you can't put in a Ba'med devarim amurim. And so for that also, tani achi dachi katani shani ochelach v'shani toimlach uchvar amar meikar Achar Mudrani Mimcha Aser. When he says Shani Ochalach, Shani Tomlach, and he already said Mudrani, he's Aser. Aval Amar Shani Ochalach Bilvad, or Mudrani Mimcha. But if he only says Shani Ochalach, or only Mudrani Mimcha, Einu Aser Lam Kein Amar L'Tarvayu. It's only Aser unless you say both of them. According to the Mefarish, what we're really saying, according to both Shmuel and according to the Braisos, is you need both phrases. Neither phrase, half of it works according to this. The Hainu Neder Gomer. You need to have both phrases together, otherwise it doesn't work. That's exactly the same as the first Brisa of the answer you're giving. And also, according to your answer, it doesn't need to say the word Asr twice in these Brisas if it's all one halacha. Why does it need to say it twice? Ella rather, says the Gemara, Hachi Amar Shmuel. Here's really what Shmuel said. He didn't only say Mudrani, but he also said Shani Ochalach, and it's because of that, Hu Di'iyu Asr Bilvad. That's when only he, the person saying the formulation, the person saying the neder, that's only he is Asr. The Masnisan Benoder Bilvad Kamar the Asr, the Katani Asr. By the Mishnah, the Noder, only the person who's making the neder is Asr to his friend's stuff, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Hey Amud Aleph.